tonight, fire guts 2 structures in McLaren forces the evacuation of nearby schools. The chief medical officer dispels reports surrounding an aircraft grounded at the Uenora International Airport and a rumored COVID-19 scare. And coronavirus has graduated to a pandemic, according to the World Health Organization. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Wednesday, the 11th of March, 2020. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow, Channel 117. The broadcast is also being simulcast on Kiss FM Radio, on our mobile app, and the Caribbean Hot 7 TV Facebook page. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. The coronavirus outbreak has been labeled a pandemic by the World Health Organization, WHO. The WHO chief said the number of cases outside China had increased 13-fold over the past 2 weeks. A pandemic is a disease that is spreading in multiple countries around the world at the same time. The WHO has called on governments to change the course of the outbreak by taking urgent and aggressive action. Several countries, the WHO says, have demonstrated that the virus can be suppressed and controlled. The challenge for many countries who are now dealing with large clusters or community transmission is not whether they can do the same, it's whether they will. Now, the island's chief medical officer, Dr. Sharon Belmar George, was forced into damage control mode after the arrival of an aircraft containing a sick passenger sparked fresh fears and concerns about the introduction of COVID-19 to St. Lucia's shores. Rochelle Gonzalez tells us more in this report.
The news being circulated indicated that the TUI flight, which originated from the UK on Tuesday evening, arrived at the Uenora International Airport and was left on the tarmac for over 2 hours, whilst health authorities initiated protocols for the situation at hand and deliberated on the best ways forward to handle the matter. Immediately, an influx of rumors and misinformation began making the rounds, with persons stating that there were cases of COVID-19 aboard the craft and that the aircraft should be sent away without allowing persons to disembark. During a highly anticipated press conference on Wednesday morning, however, the CMO, Dr. Sharon Belmar George, gave the factual details of the matter.
To ensure that we reduce any level of transmission to any other agency, we asked for the plane to be grounded until we can confirm that it is safe for the passengers to go. So this was done as we do routinely. Our team did the review, and it was a complication of a chronic disease. It was not an infectious disease, so the reports of COVID-19 on the flight were all false. And the level of which this information went out was really unfortunate. So we need to be careful, and persons take pictures, it went around, there were voice notes. Everybody without a capacity to diagnose within a very short period of time, they diagnosed COVID-19 on the flight. And it's unfortunate because it causes even more concern and panic on the ground. So we need to develop a level of responsibility with the information that we put out. Our office, we've made ourselves available, and we clarify and we send that. We try as much as possible to be timely. We may not be as timely as we prefer to be a little late with accurate information than to provide information that is not accurate very fast.
Dr. Belmar George stressed the importance of persons refraining from spreading misinformation surrounding the virus. This was in reference to a fake news report which went into circulation over the weekend, stating that there was a confirmed case of the virus in St. Lucia. She said the impact of such actions is beyond detrimental.
We would also like to appeal to the public that a lot of damage is being done to us as a country when a lot of those false reports comments, and then we forward them to other persons as the truth. It is affecting us on a regional level and on an international level as well. Sunday's incident, which was completely fake, we had to spend the whole of Sunday discussing with our regional agencies that this was fake, there is no case, and it also reduces the credibility of the country. We are an island that also depends on tourism, and we anticipate there will be a level of economic impact when the disease comes. So let us not start before it comes. Let us try as much as possible. And we need to see this. I think when persons see it on a personal level, it may affect them a little bit more. It's your uncle, it's your aunt, it's your parents, your sisters that work within different levels of society. And when this creates a level of doubt for the country, it affects everybody.
After the all-clear was given, the group of around 200 passengers were allowed to disembark. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you, Rochelle. Meanwhile, Dr. Sharon Belmar-George also disclosed that 11 people have been quarantined to date, the most recent being a nurse employed at the National Wellness Center who was further placed in isolation on the 10th of March as per St. Lucia's protocols in response to COVID-19. Samples taken from the isolated nurse were sent for testing today, Wednesday. The chief medical officer explained that the nurse does not meet the case definition of a suspect case, but out of caution, the department decided to isolate her and test. According to Dr. Belmar-George, her travel history, which included travel to New Jersey, which has recorded at least 23 confirmed cases, and New York, which has recorded over 200 cases, was the reason for isolation. An appeal has been made to people with plans of traveling into St. Lucia to be honest about their travel history as well as their current health conditions before touching down on St. Lucia's shores. The island's chief environmental officer, Parker Ragananan, indicated that people who knowingly travel from affected destinations without disclosing such information could face prosecution. However, he disclosed hopes that there will be no need for such action.
We have certain laws. So I spoke about the quarantine legislation. There's also the Public Health Act. They make provision in terms of penalties and fines for withholding information, giving wrong information, and that kind of thing. This is not really the avenue that we'd like to pursue at this point in time. We prefer to prevent rather than to respond to situation. Therefore, if it comes down to implementing a penalty, that would be used as last resort for us.
Ragananan said his department is taking a prevention is better than cure approach and is hopeful that people will cooperate with authorities for the good of the nation.
At this juncture, where we are at now is to continue to work with the traveling public, to continue to work with agencies, trying as best as possible getting information. Because whether somebody lied or not and they come to St. Lucia and they present respiratory symptoms, we would still have to respond to them, manage that case, get that information. It's only afterwards then you can decide how do you want to deal with that person, whether you want to take legal action or not. But the threat would have already been at our doors. And therefore, we want to prevent instead of responding.
Ragananan said there are clear penalties in legislation that can be implemented in the case of violation of said legislation. 2 structures were gutted by fire in the community of Leclerc on Wednesday. 2 schools in the vicinity were evacuated as a precaution during the blaze. Leclerc residents expressed their dissatisfaction with the response time of the fire service. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
Panic and smoke filled the air in Leclerc on Wednesday afternoon after members of the community watched 2 structures go down in flames. The 2 structures were abandoned. However, residents made efforts to save the house of an occupied structure which was situated nearby. One resident criticized the amount of time taken by the St. Lucia Fire Service to arrive on the scene. On the other hand, he made a plea to the powers that be to alleviate the woes of the SLFS.
When I reached on the scene, they told me they called the fire service already. And whilst we were there, we had to burst down the neighbor's door because the roof of the other neighbor house was catching on fire. And the other little one next to it already caught on fire. And I mean, that by the time we did, that was almost like 45 minutes on the scene. And the fire service, Leclerc, is almost in Castries. How the fire service takes so long to reach here? They could have reached here faster than that. Like, really? That did not have to be all day. I mean, it's true sometimes I'm saying that about the fire service, but at the end of the day, they themselves operating on the limited resources. So I hope at least whoever is in charge have to give the fire department the necessary tools they need to execute their job.
Another resident expressed concerns of abandoned buildings as well as the persons who use them occasionally.
Man, I believe that all abandoned houses should just be broken down because the zombies and those people that like to smoke crack, like to camp in that house. And I strongly believe somebody, a zombie, was the one who did that. Because there's no electricity in that house. There's nothing like that there. So all abandoned houses should just be get broken down.
Leading firefighter of the St. Lucia Fire Service, Stacey Joseph, was at the scene and gave the details of what unfolded. She also responded to claims that the responders took too long to arrive on the scene.
The fire service just responded to what seemed to be a house fire at Active Hill, Leclerc. From all appearances, it seemed like two structures were involved. The fire is now under control and the guys are cleaning up, clearing up all pockets of fire. We responded to this call at about 1:48 p.m. That's when we got the call and immediately responded with an appliance from the fire service headquarters and with backup from Babono Fire Station. Our response is due to the time the call comes in. When the call comes in, we respond immediately. The nature of fires and history in St. Lucia is that people realize or recognize that there's a fire. They try to extinguish the fires themselves, and then when it gets out of control, then they try to contact the fire department and blame us for late responses. If a fire is noticed, upon noticing a fire, you immediately call the fire department, then you initiate efforts to control the fire yourself while we make a response.
Students of both the Patricia James Secondary School and the Vidbotai Primary School were evacuated. The school safety coordinator with the Ministry of Education, Bunez Kodra, said all precautions were taken to safeguard the students. Kodra said every school has a multi-hazard plan where safety drills are performed on a regular basis. Wednesday's evacuation, he said, was a normal procedure for the students and staff of the schools. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
The St. Lucia National Trust is crying foul over what it views as the rush process being taken with the Cabot development. The trust fears that the development was approved without submission of full development plans and without an environmental, social, and archaeological impact assessment. Genevieve Gonzague reports.
Communication and Advocacy Officer for the St. Lucia National Trust, Coretta Crooks Charles, is giving voice to concerns by the Archaeological and Historical Society and the Louvre Links Concerned Citizens Group. The three organizations have banded together to demand dialogue on the Cabot development in the north of the island. There are several concerns about whether the developer followed all protocol as it relates to development approval, from submission on full plans to the conduct of an environmental, social, and archaeological impact assessment.
We're calling on the authorities to meet with the relevant agencies, the Trust, ANH, the concerned citizens, and share your plans. We are not against development. All we're asking for is for the development to be done in a sustainable way so that you do not destroy or prevent persons from accessing their heritage assets.
The National Trust estimates that up to 100 acres of land has already been cleared by the developer without any environmental safeguards or monitoring. According to Charles, the unique and sensitive biodiversity of the area, including Cactus Valley, which has significant populations of a wide variety of cacti, is under threat from the massive clearance activities already undertaken. The conceptual plans for the development show structures erected over the known Amerindian burial site within the property. Despite assurances from the developer that this area will be respected and that all stakeholders will be consulted in the decision as to how it should be dealt with, the Trust notes that no further information has been forthcoming from the developer. Charles says discussion is vital at this point.
We have been trying to speak with the developers as well as the Development Control Authority and other authorities on this matter because we're not sure if the appropriate measures were taken before development started.
Charles says too many times such matters are left to fester until it is too late. Hence, the Trust has embarked on this campaign to raise public awareness of what is happening on the Cabot St. Lucia development site and what this means to the people of St. Lucia. She laments that the inappropriate and unsustainable approach taken so far in this development means that important heritage of value to the people and the country may have already been irretrievably lost. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, the CSA has some probing questions for the government about the future of hospital staff. The president of the Vendors Association tells his members to brace for tough times ahead. That and more coming up after the break.